Hey everybody, Mr. Briz here. Just wanted to let you know that this is going to be my primary way of teaching you what we're doing in class, is just by doing it with a video. Uh, Beginning of term 3, we were going to get into geometry. And so this first lesson was going to be just an introduction, talking about lines, rays, and segments. We were going to be learning about how to name and classify angles, and then also for pairs of angles. All of that is going to be occurring actually in the next couple days. So the first thing is just knowing the definition of a line, and so that's going to be a straight set of points that extend indefinitely in opposite directions. What's really important are the arrows here at the end, because that designates that it's a line. Without those, so for example that right there, that's actually a line segment, not a line. So, for naming this line, then, what we want to do is we always want to use two of the points that are on the line. So, right here, I see we have 3 different points. I am not supposed to use all 3, I'm only supposed to use 2. So, I can say PQ would be a pair of letters that could be used, and then we put what appears to be a miniature line right above it to show that's the name of the line. We could also do OQ. We could do QP. Pretty much any combination of 2 letters that were on the line. And then one thing also you're going to notice is that up here we have a label as well. So another way that we could label it is just by using that single letter. So we could also call this line L instead of using any of the points that happen to be on the line. Alright, so another thing that we need to know is the word collinear, and so that means that those are points that be connected by one line. So what I want you to do is go ahead and pause the video and try to answer these 3 questions. After you are done, start the video again, and then I will explain how to do that. Alright, so for the first one, it says that part A, name 3 points that are collinear. So looking at this picture, I see right here we have 3 points that could be on a line. So we have A, we have B, and we have C. All of those are on the same line, so therefore they are collinear. That is the only combination that we have, because if we happen to go this direction, N is not a point. N is actually the name of the line. So we cannot say D, B, and N. It's only going to be A, B, and C. Okay, for part B, we want to know all the different ways that we could name line L. So this, again, any combination of 2 letters that are on line L would work. So we could say AB, we could say BC, we could say AC, and we could reverse all of those as well. So we could do BA, we could do CB, or CA. All of those would be okay. Alright, and then for the last one, we want to know all the different ways that we could name line N. In this case, there's only 2 possibilities. We have DB and BD. Okay, so as I mentioned before, a line segment then, that's going to look just like the line, except we do not have arrows. For a line segment, you must name it by its endpoints. So in this case, we have AC, and then we will put a miniature line segment over it to show what that is, and then we could also call it CA. Now we cannot call it AB, we cannot call it BC, we cannot call it BA or CB, because that's talking about either that part right there or that part right there. And what we want is the entire line segment. All right, for this question then, I want you to go ahead and try to answer that. Once again, pause the video. Once you are done, then start playing the video again, and I will explain how to do it. All right, so for the first one, part A, how many line segments are formed by these intersecting lines? Well, the line segment, remember, is going to be named by 2 points. So AB, I see that's going to be 1. BC, that's going to be a second one. And then AC is a third. So what I see is that we have 3 line segments. Now, you might be wondering, if there's AB, can't there also be BA? That's correct, but since it's the exact same segment, we're just going to ignore it. Okay, part B then, use as many ways as possible to name the 2 line segments intersecting at point A. So from this picture here, that's going to be the ones that I have marked as 1 and as 3. So that's going to be either AB, or we could call it BA as well. And then for number 3 there, that can be called line segment AC, or we can call that CA. All right, now the next part is the ray. So that's going to be kind of like a half line segment, half line, because we have one endpoint, but then the other side goes on forever. So when we name a ray, we always start with the endpoint and then we continue in the direction of the arrow. So in this case, we could call this ray AX, because we're starting at A and we're going past X and to the right. We can also call this ray AB. Again, same reason, we start at A and point B is in the direction where the arrow is pointing. Now, we cannot say XA, because that would suggest that we're starting at X and then we're going towards A. And that's not how this ray appears. Likewise, the same thing is true for BA, because that would suggest that we're starting at point B and then we're going over to A. Once again, that is not the direction the arrow is pointing in our picture. All right. Now we have opposite rays, and so those are always going to be 2 rays that connect and they make a line. So in this picture, you're supposed to see that there are 2 rays that are connecting. What I see, because we have to use 2 letters in order to name a ray, I see that both of them have an endpoint at K. And one of them is going to the right, and that's making ray KL. And then the other one starts at K and is going towards J. So the other one is going to be called ray KJ. Now that we have that, go ahead, take a look at this question, and again, pause the video. When you are done, start the video again, and I will answer the questions. Okay, so for part A, we are supposed to name 2 opposite rays. There's a lot of them in this picture. So what we could do, if we started at point B and we went to the left, we could say then that we've got ray BA. And then if we go the opposite direction from there, you either have BC or you could have used BD. So that's going to be one possibility, ray BA, and then it has to pair with either BC or it's with BD. Then another possibility that we have is starting at point C. If we go to the left, then we have either CA, or we could call that CB. And then going to the right, there's only one possibility, which is CD. Now for part B, we are supposed to explain why BC and CB are not opposite. So for this first part, we should draw where BC is located, and that's going to be point B there, and we're going to the right. For the second part, it's saying CB, which means we're going to start at C, and we're going to go to the left. And the issue that we have is that our two rays overlap right there for BC. So what we could say, for the reason why they are not opposite, BC and CB do not share an endpoint. So they overlap, or you could say they share, or they do not share an endpoint. Then for the second part, we are then asked, what ray is opposite to BC? Well, we already answered that in part A, because that was right here. We know BA and BC are going to be opposite. So that's going to be the answer to the second part of our question. BA is opposite to ray BC. Alright, now we are going to get into angles. So that is the space formed by two rays that share an endpoint. It doesn't have to be a ray, it could be a line segment as well. It could be with two lines, doesn't really matter. So here we need to know that the vertex is going to be where the two rays share the endpoint. And when we name these, there's a couple ways that we have to be aware. So first, we could just use this number right here and make sure that you include the symbol for an angle as well, angle 1. We could also say that right there, that's where the vertex is. We could say angle E. We also are going to be able to use 3 letters, and the vertex right here, the vertex must be the middle letter. So then we could also have angle DEF, or we could say angle FED. Now, in this bottom picture, this is a very common mistake that occurs. A lot of people think that they can always name an angle with one letter. And in this picture here, that is not allowed. You cannot say you have angle P. Why do you think that is? Hopefully, what you're noticing in this picture is that angle P, there's not just one angle. When you say angle P, I'm going to ask you, do you mean that angle? Do you mean that angle? Are you talking about that one? Or are you talking about that one? There isn't enough information in this picture for us to define any of the angles, so therefore you cannot say angle P. Even if, let's say, you had A there and you happen to have B here, even with other letters there, that's still not enough to tell me which one is angle P. You need to be able to use 3 letters whenever you have more than one angle at a vertex. Okay. In this picture, I want you to answer it and name 3 of the angles that you can see in this picture. Alright. So there are a couple really easy ones here. I noticed that we've got the ones that have numbers. So angle 1 and angle 2 would be very easy for us to name. Now, I am not able to call, I can't find a name for that angle because, actually, I'm sorry. Yes, we can. Because that starts at M, it goes to A, and then it goes to B. So we could have angle MAB. This angle here goes from A to B to C. And of course, we could go in reverse order as well. C to B to A. This one up here, we could have gone B to A to M. Let's see, we have this angle here, so that's going to give us ACB. Or in reverse order, you could have BCA. We could do this angle here. There's lots of angles in this picture. BAC, or you could say angle CAB. And I don't think there's anything else that I have forgotten. I don't think there's enough information for us to label any of the other angles present. So as long as you have at least 3 of these that I have listed, then you will be correct. Alright, here we have a list of all the different types of angles. So we won't really talk about the zero angle that much, but pretty much it's just an angle where it measures 0 degrees. The acute angle is going to be less than 90. So I'll actually put that right there. For the right angle, this one has to be exactly 90 degrees. And by the way, that square there is very important. If you do not see a square, you cannot assume that it is 90 degrees. That's going to be very important for us. Alright, then the obtuse angle down here, that one is going to be between 90 and 180. This straight angle, this is the one that equals exactly 180 degrees. And then the reflex angle is also one that we don't really talk about that often, but that is going to be between 180 and 360. Now the angles that we're going to talk about the most will be acute, right, obtuse, and then a little less often, but we'll still see it, the straight angle. Now down here at the bottom, a definition of what congruent means. So that is going to be 2 or more objects that are the same size. And this is a very important symbol that you're going to have to remember. It's an equal sign, but then we put a squiggle on top, and that shows that 2 things are congruent. So then whenever you see that, you know those 2 things are the exact same size. So our last slide then, I want you to try this question on your own. Go ahead and pause the video. Name those angles that appear. Now the keyword is appears. I know I told you can't assume that something's a right angle if there's no square there, but you are supposed to name a shape that looks like it could be a right angle. So pause the video and then I will answer this once you are done. Okay, so for the first one, name an angle that appears to be acute. Well, we know that acute angles are going to be less than 90 degrees. So the first one I notice is right there. We could say DOC, or we could call it COD. We also have another acute angle right there. So we could say it is COB or BOC. And then we've got one right there. So then we could call that BOA, or we can call that angle AOB. Okay, for part B, name one that appears to be right. So I noticed that it looks like COA or AOC. Those appear to be right angles. And then I think you could argue that this angle here also appears to be a right angle. I personally think it looks a little more than 90 degrees, but it's pretty close, so I'm willing to accept it as well. So we will have DOB or angle BOD. And then lastly, for part C, name something that looks like it is obtuse. Well, we could say that big one, DOA or AOD. That sure looks like it's going to be obtuse. And I don't think we have anything else that is going to work. So it looks like those two are the only answers that we can have. So that's everything for this lesson. Again, the introduction to geometry. Hopefully, a lot of this actually was review for you. I'm hoping there wasn't a lot that was new. So you are aware then, the homework assignment is here, and you'll be able to see the answer key posted on Web Schools or Sabas digital platform. So thank you for listening. Have a good day.